Committee meeting, and it is now 1:15. Okay, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You'll call the roll.
Okay,
Rebecca.
Director Thomas,
I'm here.
Director Underhill.
I'm here. Okay, item number 2 is public comment, and we follow the same guidelines as we do in the regular meeting. Public is given 3 minutes if you'd care to address us. 2 publics. Oh, okay. Well, no, I just in case I had something above and beyond. I want to give you that opportunity. Uh-huh.
For a different meeting, we would really like to explore the issues of grant writing and grant applications and making that a wonderful thing to happen. And so that's not something we're going to get into detail here,
Right.
but
right.
that's a separate topic that we'd like to focus on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Under new business. Oh, excuse me.
I'm sorry. I'd be interested to know whether any of the facilities are open to public to tour or visit any of the
Okay.
facilities.
We've got the right gentleman who can take care of that, and you could talk to him about that. Yes, uh-huh.
Yeah, we've had tours at our locations before.
Yeah.
No process validation guy, it's background. So, and I've been in a lot of manufacturing facilities, and stuff around the country, but not a lot of facilities.
Oh, okay. A whole new education for you. Uh-huh.
Space.
Yeah, uh-huh. He'd be more than willing to talk to you about that. Okay,
There have been organized tours in the past that have been very
Right.
well attended. So I really encourage that kind of stuff. Mhm.
because we've had, 1, 2 people, as many, and up to, how many did you have down there?
Well, they like to hold it at 10 or 15, but sometimes they do 10 or 15 in the morning, 10 or 15 in the afternoon. So I think it's a very, very important part of the outreach that we should be doing. So
Okay. Yeah, we're on. Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh, really? Really? Yes.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, we can make
We're
that happen.
very receptive to that. Okay. So we'll go on to item number 3, new business. Item 4A, discussion regarding district metrics and dashboard. And Michael, you're going to chime in? I hope. Michael?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Are you fine?
Sorry, I'm not there in person today. But this is a discussion that we've been having with, excuse me, with Francisco and Mike in the room there for a month or so now. It is something that we have talked about internally over time, and we've had some progress, I think, on that front. You'll see some of it in Kelly Richards' presentation later. But yeah, there's definitely some room for improvement there. But Francisco and Mike approached us and wanted to share some of their ideas on what they would like to see from the public facing perspective. And so I really appreciate their willingness to share their ideas with us. And so we told them staff didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this item today, but they went ahead and prepared a presentation for us to share their thoughts and their ideas on it. So we really appreciate the work that they put into it. And so I think Becca is prepared to pull up Francisco's presentation. So at this point, I think this is a somewhat unusual process here, but I'm going to turn it over to Francisco instead of turning it over to CCWD staff to share his presentation and his suggestions with us. So thank you, Francisco.
Okay, well, we certainly, careful, we certainly appreciate that. And we would, we always are looking at time parameters. So if we're looking at 10 to 15 minutes, Francisco?
Hopefully, considerably less, because most of the meaningful discussion probably would take place with staff to really refine the ideas and this is one to sell you the concept, to get you to agree to go further with the concept, and hopefully we get something that works for everyone.
Okay.
I have a question for you, Francisco.
Yes.
And as you know very well, our budget has been scrutinized very closely lately. I just, what is this going to cost us?
Well, from me,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I think this is one of the most refreshing things that I've experienced since I've been on this board, is somebody that has the knowledge and the background and the willingness to help us. I applaud you, both of you.
Well, I'm just hopeful that we can work together and make everything turn out the way all up there are listening to this. But basically, I'm just going to start by diving right in. Why do we have metrics, right? We all agree that it helps us decide what things are working, what things are not working. And as ratepayers, it's helpful to know that the folks that we have entrusted with our facilities, et cetera, are doing all the right things, so that we can develop some level of trust and understanding. Because right now, it's like we're being driven around in a car and we don't know where we're going, how we're going to get there, and what's all those bumps, and oh, you just hit my wallet again. And so now with these metrics, we'll know what's going on. On the inside, those metrics will also help with how am I doing as an employee? If you tell me that our cost per 1 million gallons of treatment have gone through the sky, maybe I can find some ways to reduce those costs. If you're telling me that we're having 10 or 15 breaks per mile of main line, and we should be shooting for 5 and we're down to 3, are we going in the right direction? So there's got to be a reliable way to test and tell ourselves we're on the right track. So metrics, as I say, can face internally or externally. The externally ones, it's like for me, how do I know how much water we're treating? More importantly, you've shared with us the cost of service study. And that basically laid out your operating goals and objectives for the next 5 years. One of them being, you estimated this much consumption per month for every year. With the new AMI data, you'll be able to know, are we making that net, or are we missing it? Because that's 25% of the revenue, right? If we don't make that, what are we going to do? Is it that folks are cutting service, et cetera? How are you tracking? How are you going to track the fact that when you set up those budgets that created that cost of service model, that those line items are actually costing you what you estimated they were going to cost? And so those are the kinds of internal facing metrics that you would use to say, we're going to meet the goals and objectives we told the ratepayers we're going to meet with this cost of service study, because those numbers are hard numbers. They're there, et cetera. My suggestion is to start small and add metrics as we begin to get used to it. Right now, how many calls are you getting from customers about what type of things? I don't know. Kelly, I'm sure knows, but is it something that you all are measured on? Like, how many complaints per 1,000 customers do you get? I don't know. What's reasonable? 1 complaint, 2 complaints? Right now, you're probably pegging the meter, right? Everybody is really unhappy. So, but how does that compare to the average year when everything's going smoothly? When you guys have been out there busting your butts, recovering from the 3rd river in a row, you know? Do you get compliments? Do you measure that? You know, when Rebecca puts out a posting on Nextdoor, all kinds of comments, right? But there are some metrics. Your website, it has analytics. Who visits it? How often? Do they just page in, page out, don't go anywhere? All of those things can help you make better decisions. So what I'm trying to say is all of those things require us to think carefully about what do we want to do? How do we want to accomplish it? And what tools do we have? What kind of technology can we use to capture, display, and share the information? It sounds like from what Kelly's about to present, there's a lot of stuff that's already underway that we could take advantage of. But I don't know that if you've used the analogies that I've tried to sell I want a dashboard out there. When you get in a car, it's essentialized. It doesn't tell you about everything that's going on in the car. It tells you how fast you're going so you don't get caught and, get a speeding ticket. You have enough gas to get to your next destination, the essential stuff so that you get your trip. Now, you take it to the mechanic, he plugs it in, spills its guts. More data than you can even dream of. Well, what I'm trying to do is get a dashboard for the district. So what are the essential things that we as ratepayers thought we ought to look at? These are not in any specific order or a level of importance. They're just things that we think ought to be included. And they're not in any order of implementation timeframes or, all of those things, because we don't know what already exists. We don't know how hard it is to go from where you are to where this would take you. And we don't know who on the staff ought to play a role in shaping that dashboard. Yes. I didn't want to put that up there.
Right.
It's like you can't see it, but you can read it. Everybody's got a package, right?
Yeah.
And you'll note that the first bullet that I did put up there for a reason is the cost of service model is what's guiding our evaluation of performance, because that was a 5-year forecast. Every quarter, every month, you ought to be able to go, oh, we're on track, we're off track, or et cetera. And other things that might help you decide whether things are going really off track is consumption levels and your billing cycles. There's a measure in here about accounts receivable days. Do we know that one, Kelly? What the accounts receivable days might be? How many days right now it takes a bill to get paid after it's issued? I mean, yeah, okay, yeah. So, but it's a cash flow issue. So, but that's something internally, et cetera. Wastewater treatment compliance. I'm sure that Damon's all over that because he'd be in jail otherwise, right? Some of those you violate, you're in deep, deep trouble. Poison people, right? So there's some compliance issues that I already know you need to be at 100% because otherwise you've had some issues we don't know about, right? So last,
because that means money.
it
Yeah.
means a lot of money. So after we decide on those things, we're trying to get ratepayers to be better informed, to rebuild some of the trust that I think we've lost from what the ratepayers think y'all are doing for them versus what they think they ought to be entitled to or what they ought to pay for, et cetera. There's a big disconnect. And one way to close that gap between what they think is going on and what's really going on is say, look, come look, here it is. Like we mentioned tours before, they don't have to be live in person. They can be video tours, virtual tours, so that people understand, here's the condition of the tanks. We're trying to get from this condition to here's what we did after the last, very visual, like the old saw says, pictures worth 1,000 words. And if you make it easy for people to get that, then half the battle's over. And right now, I have to say, it's not the easiest website to navigate to get to where you want to, you know, and this dashboard has to be like, boom. When you get in the car, you don't have to look around for the dashboard, okay? And the metaphor of an automobile dashboard versus an airline cockpit dashboard, vastly different things. You know, ratepayers are not into the vastly complex kind of instrumentation that somebody like Damon or Kelly or your operators would want to have to run this place. That's a different dashboard. It can be fed from the same sorts of data feeds, but you've made it easy for us that care about, hey, how come my water rate's high, et cetera. My suggestion is to consider using your current logo that has Calaveras County and it has the locations. And you know, you click, boom, it opened the screen for that facility. The things that we've decided are important for ratepayers to know. When an internal folks can click, they might have a different dashboard because there's tools out there that I'm sure you can find that do that you don't have to hire somebody on your own to sit there and build this thing from scratch. Technology's gone that far. Also, we've already found that the portal has these capabilities. So boom, we can already deploy some of that. I've seen some of the ads in the papers for openings. You might consider putting not just ads, but informational text boxes that say, hey, during this week in this neighborhood, we're going to be doing some work for y'all. So watch out, you know, help spread a little fun with Mr. Nick. So the facilities could be done so that facility only stuff comes up, or when you look generally at the district, all of the district issues come up. But lastly, as I mentioned earlier, we're interested in the grant, okay? And I don't know right now that what kind of project status reporting you all are doing, but I was brought up with Gantt charts and PERT charts and network diagrams and all that, but it was always to reduce it to higher level of management. They decided that the semaphore of the traffic signal worked. So if everything's great, the project was green. It was some problems, it was yellow. What were the problems? Go off and find out. If you're into deep do, you know, when everybody's avoiding the fan, it's red. Very easy. Well, somebody got smart and said, well, what happened? Anyway, you need to have some way to know where's the money coming from? Who's working on, where is it? We've applied for it, we're awaiting a response, or it's been granted, or it failed. And why did it fail? And what happened? What did we do? What was the reason we got disqualified? So that we don't repeat that, et cetera. So there are other external sources of funding that also need reporting, because one of the objectives of this particular task force is to find a way to fund some of those later years with grants so that those rates can come this way, down. So how soon can we start? Who's on the team? That's for you all to decide. Maybe, you know, there's not enough bandwidth, but hopefully there's enough here to engage in some discussion, taking this forward.
Thank you.
I just have one question, and all of these comments are directed at CCWD. Are you going to be addressing the customer base? Is that?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Well, maybe.
very succinctly, I'm going to. And thank you, Francisco. It's a great overview, and just so you know, there's actually 5 of us that have been working together to put this together. So they're not all here today, but I want to thank those participants as well. So I think the bottom line is what we're trying to, you know, we recognize that you've got the revenue sources on one side of the ledger, rates, grants, et cetera. But ultimately, none of this matters if we're not driving operational excellence and getting costs down. That's what we're really hoping to achieve with this. Bells and whistles and data is, to us, is not meaningful if we're not driving operational excellence and getting costs down from the operations standpoint. whatever that may entail. And so that's the core of this, is what can we do as a community working with you folks to drive that operational excellence. And that can be more uptime, less downtime. You know, predictive failure analysis and things like that. And so what we would propose to do in that long list of 16 items is set up a kind of a working group and just kind of go through those and say, hey, you know, what's really possible and realistic and what is, you know, financially not realistic. For example, we don't want to burden the district with things that, you know, that may not have the kind of return that, you know, we need. And so we're looking to help and assist with making investments that will give us some sort of operational returns and help ratepayers. So I just want to make sure that that's clear what the overarching goal is of all of this, is to drive operational excellence. Question?
Thank you. This is certainly.
Francisco,
Do you have?
well, I should take about 20 minutes here. Since, one of the things that jumped off the page here was analyzing main break frequency. And Jesse, you could answer this better than anybody. I'm not aware that we have a whole lot of problems with main breaks versus laterals. You know, that's the crazy thing is you sometimes you dig down and you fix a leak on a lateral and you find these saddle clamps, or maybe 6 or 7 of them. And I don't know when all of those things were put on. Certainly, I think a long time before our current crew is here, because they usually just go back to the source and put in a new, more modern type of pipe to begin with. I mean, I've heard horror stories about bluebell pipe all over the place. It's like the thickness of a straw. But you know, analyzing main breaks per mile might not be much of an indication of anything. But yeah. But I'm. You asked a question about who's on the team. Can I be on the team? Okay.
How big a team are you looking at?
Smaller is better.
Need subject matter experts. The engineering.
Yeah, you have to come up.
Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Probably some folks from IT, from engineering. So the effort is, the broader the base of knowledge with the fewest people, the better the team size, because we don't want to bog down into the old design by a committee situation where you don't get anything done. So small is best, but broader coverage.
I can appreciate full well how important IT is, and we've had 2 very bright guys that you know, both of them or the lead person would have been ideal for that. Dylan probably is more equipment oriented rather than you know, new leading edge stuff. I could be wrong about that, but we're advertising for a replacement for Brandon, who left. I can't believe he would have left for a better job.
And one of the things, you know, of course, this will go back to Michael and the management team, because you will be the, you know, key in appointing those or assigning the different representatives of the different areas that we need.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure we'll continually be looking at the team and evaluating the effectiveness of that team. And if we need to replace someone, that's, you know, we will do that,
Well, we have a
because we don't want to
But we have a general manager that's well aware of people's capabilities and their availability for it. But Scott Rediman had the wisdom to set up this external relations committee, and I think that this was right, should be right in our wheelhouse. I mean, this should be our very, very important focus going forward here.
Mhm.
And both Bertha and I, do you feel the same way I do? We need to
Mhm.
really jump in and take advantage.
Absolutely.
Um,
I'm thinking like 3 to 5 people,
mhm.
max, and there may be, subject matter experts, do we all 5 sit down in a room? Maybe not. Maybe this group of 3 tackles, 5 items on the bullet list, and it's a different subcommittee that's talking about some of the other items. We put that bullet list together again. Some of them are must-haves,
Mhm.
I think, but others less so. And so, so we would encourage you to get with Michael, go through the list, determine who those participants would be. We want meetings to be timely, effective, that results oriented kinds of discussions, and make sure that we are getting the most out of this that we possibly can without disrupting your own and,
Right,
all the
right.
things you guys do day to day. We don't want to disrupt any of that, but we want to find a way to help foster this kind of working relationship that produces results for ratepayers.
Mhm. Because right now, our team is lean
Yep.
and,
Well, yeah, but
Our team.
no, this is
Our
necessary.
team is lean too.
These are necessary,
Yeah.
these recommendations.
So,
are-
hey, we don't need answers today, but
Right.
sit down with internally and determine what you think the next steps would be and who should be part of this.
Mhm.
And, we're open to ideas and ways of doing this. And, so that's,
okay, you started off by asking about tours. And would you want to get some on the ground familiarity with what's going on before we launch
think
into
so.
these
I
problem
think so,
solving?
because
Yeah.
I think so, because right now, I'm not sure what questions to ask. And so I think, and gentleman gave me his card. I'll reach out to him, and there'll be 1 or 2 from our team perhaps. But if there's, we want to make it larger and make it available to the public at large, that's up to you folks to decide.
Because when we're talking about the recommendations on the initial set of CCWD performance metrics, I'm thinking of going one step further and establishing a goal, of goal or goals.
Yeah, certainly some benchmarks and
Mhm.
goals are important with any attempt like this. And, at the very high level, 50,000 foot level, as I said, it's operational excellence to reduce cost of operations.
Because
so-
whenever you set goals, of course, you think of making them measurable, right?
Yeah,
And so that's another thing that we're gonna have to,
sure.
keep
Is
in
it
mind.
is it quantifiable and
Mhm.
measurable and so on? But, ultimately, what's the value does it bring
Mhm.
to? And we don't want to go through exercises that don't deliver value to the organization internally or the ratepayers externally. That's really the goal here.
Well, these sound exciting to me, really, because, you've taken it to the ground level. And,
Well,
and you haven't had a chance to look at these, Kelly, no? Have you?
I didn't realize it at the time that we were talking with the board of directors of the Boca Flat Homeowners Association. They had been reaching out to CCWD for months and months and months, maybe up to 24 months, saying you've got to do something to help us with these water breaks that we're having all over the subdivision. And so I organized a trip down there with Michael and Damon, and sat and listened to their legitimate complaints, and sort of that precipitated the hiring of a crew and getting a new VACCON unit so that we could be more responsive. And it was, I don't know, I was well aware that it made a good impression, but now I'm thinking that it was really quite remarkable that their outpouring of thanks for listening to us was really good. You know, it felt good, and still is a very memorable objective.
Starts with good communication.
Yeah. But the funny part about that is we started in there and found out that PG&E has wires that go across our pipes, and
Right.
and what was it? They had, the homeowner association had a contract that they were preparing to let to repave their streets. So we didn't really achieve our objective yet about getting all these leaks fixed because of these impediments. And the homeowners association said, please don't start to do any of this stuff until PG&E is out of the way and you can get your stuff, and then we can pave. We don't want to have all this to come about afterwards. But anyway, that's
It's a good example of
yeah.
the kinds of things we're talking about too.
Okay.
Improve service, reduce cost. It's all about delivering value to these ratepayers.
What are you doing after our meeting tomorrow?
Before we go to Michael,
for a
I'm
tour.
wondering, Kelly, did you have any response to what you've seen, or you'd like to address this, or?
Well, I can tell you that we have talked about this a lot in the PRT meetings, so I think it's certainly on our radar. I think this list is really great, and I think a lot of these things we already kind of track in some form. So it'd just be compiling that into our website, which is something we're working on right now. The priority, I think, is the portal and the website to kind of get that in line and get it up and functioning and get it, getting it more easily accessible for the public. But I think this list is fantastic, and in due time, I think we can work on a lot of these things. I went through and checked things that I know right off the bat we're already kind of tracking. It's just a matter of getting it in the right format for the public to see. But I can tell you, we are talking about this, I think, every single PRT meeting. So I think that group would be a good place for you guys to start to at least get the conversation going. And as far as the tours, and we have talked about doing videos and presentations to kind of show the facilities to reach more people. I mean, we can only facilitate so many folks in one tour, so we want to be able to reach more people, and I think that's a really good way of doing it.
Thank you.
Francisco and Mike, are you aware that this young man has 20 years experience as a plant operator? Mm-hmm. So you thought he was just a pretty face, but
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Well, remember, Michael needs to hear you.
but
I
I
appreciate his knowledge. He speaks very well informed, so.
that's
he's a-
why.
He's a no BSer kind of guy.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so
What-
remarkable. He he got this position as a water resource guy out of a field of a bunch of highly qualified people, and he was right here under our nose. So anyway, I just think that's really, we're very lucky. So-
I've got a recruitment net out for a grant writer, so.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that I'd like to address just quickly is the fact that we talked about, or Fernando, you mentioned Francisco, excuse me, starts with an F. Fran, letting the newspapers get involved. And I think that we could consider, and this is just a thought I'd like to throw out, is to have a column. And we used to do that many years ago, where we would, again, where we're going to be working, or, different areas that we're going to improve, or so that if we have an established column in the Enterprise and in Valley Springs News, if they'd be willing to do that for us, because we have to look, is this going to cost us money? Right, right. So some way we could supplement that or think about that, because this would be a perfect tool to use.
I'd have to analyze the readership.
One of the things that I've learned and heard from a lot of people is it's very hard to get the word out in this area.
Oh, yes.
And so most people, around Valley Springs, it's good old Nick Batista, who's been Mr. Valley Springs News for as long as I've been here.
Right.
And then the Enterprise, as you mentioned. But other than that, everybody's got their network. And it turns out a lot of people have cell phones that use Nextdoor and Facebook. So if you're not using Facebook, and if you're not using Nextdoor, and if you're not using Instagram, you're missing out on a lot of people that carry these things around like an appendage. And it's there. And all you have to do is find a way to keep tapping it.
And Rebecca's nodding yes, as she.
Are there days of the week that are better for a tour than others? Okay, okay. Yeah, I was just looking.
We'll
at my
reach out to
calendar.
you guys. Sorry to jump in here. We'll reach out to you guys and set up a tour, and it'd be great if your whole team, I think you said there were 5, if we could get all of them. So let's try to coordinate a date to
Sure,
do that, and maybe
yeah.
a few more.
Yeah, we'll do our best. One of our team members has a regular job, so she may not be able to participate. But Michael, yeah, just let us know. I was just looking at my calendar, and I really can't do anything this week. And then I've got something coming up next week. But just throw out some dates to us, Michael, and we'll make it work.
Yeah, and we can accommodate potentially, depending on what the schedules are. See if we can capture everybody. So yeah, we'll reach out to you guys and try to schedule that. And in general, really appreciate, these are all really great suggestions. I think Kelly touched on a lot of the points I was going to make. That, yeah, I think when I look at the list, to me, it kind of falls into 2 different categories of stuff that we're already tracking. And in some cases, we do report out to the finance committee or to the engineering committee. And then, so stuff that we're already tracking, and then things that we're not tracking. And the stuff that we're already tracking is the work effort would be consolidating it, bringing it together, making it more accessible for people to see. And then the potentially bigger work effort might be if there's stuff that we're not yet capturing or not yet tracking. That might be a way to organize the work effort into a couple of different phases. But these are all really good suggestions, and really appreciate the time that you guys have put into it. As far as the team, the top 2 people on the top of my list would be our external affairs manager and our IT manager, and both of those positions are vacant right now, unfortunately. We're working on, working on that. And we have a team approach, as Kelly mentioned. We call it our public relations team, that is picking up the work that those vacant positions leave us with. So it's, and you know, it's a question of of staff bandwidth and prioritization, but look forward to pursuing this and making this stuff more accessible. And then to Director Underhill's point about the possibility of a column, that's something we could look into. We also have talked about maybe a quarterly newsletter, and so maybe that's something where we push out some of these metrics in a regular report that so it's not just on the website, but it's something that we're actually pushing out on Facebook and Nextdoor. So that's another concept that we have discussed internally that we can throw into the mix here.
Yeah, Michael, thank you. We recognize that it's would be a work in process, but this platform, this group, this monthly meeting that you have is, a great opportunity to kind of review our progress on, what's working, what's still a challenge, et cetera. So we understand that it's not going to happen overnight, but as long as we have the shared goal of achieving the benchmarks and things that we establish is, and we recognize it won't happen overnight. So thank you.
Yeah, and Mike,
along-
I appreciate your focus on actual, operational improvement or operational excellence, I think is the way you put it, and potential cost savings, because that to me is, that rightly should be our focus. Is not, there's a public outreach and transparency component to this, but we should always be looking for ways to reduce costs and improve operations as well. So if that if that can help us in that realm, then that should be the primary focus.
Excuse me, I'd like to add one thing, and that's the fact that we need to have some sort of notification or to make our customer base aware of what we're doing. We won't have, we have to make sure that they know that we can't give them results just like that, but at least let them know that we've heard them and we're going to work on it, or we're going to fix it. Not work on it, we're going to fix it.
Michael, hearing you talk about the unfortunate circumstance that we don't have an external affairs manager or an IT manager, I think that there's a very strong possibility that it might take months to fill those positions, but I don't think that we need to postpone jumping into some of these operational examinations and looking closely at operations. We can't. I mean, what Mike said earlier is that this is the first part, and then reporting out, the function of an external relations manager, that he could jump on board after these facts are brought forward. So I don't want to hold this up to in any way to wait for chairs to be filled here. This is too important.
Right. Okay, well, I thank you. And Michael, are you ready to give us an external affairs update?
Sure. We are we've had multiple vacancies and then some new ones as well. As you all know, our water resources managers is leaving us this week, in addition to some of the other vacancies that we have. And so that's just I feel like after starting at about 6 months in my time at CCWD, this has just been the normal mode of operation, is just an incredible amount of turnover. And so as we always do, we look at these as, they're obviously their challenges, but they're opportunities too to reevaluate the way we've done things before and whether that's still the best way to do it going forward or not. So we're asking those questions right now with a few of those positions, which might slow the process down a little bit, but it's always time well spent if we achieve a better outcome. So we'll keep you posted on the recruitment effort on the external affairs manager position. Aside from that, Kelly G mentioned the prioritization of the customer portal and the website improvements, as we've heard suggestions on that front as well. So we're looking at both of those things. We're developing some outreach materials on some of our capital improvement projects, and then also this is overlaps a little bit with legal affairs, but just advocacy efforts. We met a really positive meeting with Senator Alvarado Gil last Friday after the Chamber of Commerce event that we attended, and we're preparing our advocacy and outreach for our federal advocacy effort next month. So a lot of moving pieces. We're also, one of the other vacant positions that we've had is the engineering coordinator position, and that by design plays a big role in the grant process. And so we've been reevaluating that. Mark and I have are moving forward with another with a consultant that we've talked about before that will help a very cost-effective approach, we think, to making sure that we're identifying all the potential grant funding opportunities that are out there. So to make sure that we're not missing out on any. Our team is pretty good at that, but it's we want to make sure that there's no stone left unturned. So there is a consulting service that offers that is very familiar with our similar agencies, I should say. So if they can provide a report for us to make sure we're not missing out on any potential funding opportunities, I think that would be a measure of comfort, especially considering how short-staffed we are, to make sure we're not missing any opportunities. And then with each opportunity that comes about, it's a question of how do we staff the grant development effort, because it's as you all know, it's a staff labor intensive process to put these grant applications together. And so we're working on that process as well, and happy to bring that back as an agenda item to discuss where we're at on that. I think that's all I have, but happy to answer questions.
Yeah. Okay, we're ready for our customer service update. Oh, excuse me. Oh, do I have any public comment? Seeing none? Or hearing none? Kelly?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So I am presenting an update for the customer service department, and this is a standing presentation or update that we do for each external relations committee meeting. It's okay. So the purpose of this update is just to provide the committee and public with kind of a 35,000-foot overview of some of the things that customer service staff has been involved in over the last several months. And so if we move forward to the next page, we typically like to report on call queues, emails, and work orders. While this is, a huge part of what we do in customer service, we do quite a bit more, but these are easy for us to quantify and report on as, indicators of our interaction with our public, our customers. So common calls and inquiries, I'm looking for the last 4 months, ending in August. And a majority of our customer interaction has been for CCWD side and customer side leaks and concerns, move-ins and move-outs, portal enrollment, usage or billing questions, payments, and then obviously our rate study that we were just going through. So you'll see to the chart on the right that we do field quite a few calls. We respond to quite a few emails, and then we also generate service orders for our operations staff, our field staff to go out and respond to in regards to those customer concerns for water and sewer. Some analytics for May through August, we averaged about 51 calls, inbound calls a day. The average handle time for our calls is a little over 3 minutes. And for our staff time for the last 4 months, we've spent about 11% of our time on the phone. So, you know, obviously as we move forward and we look at ways to, you know, time manage and plan for resources and staffing, these are some of the things that we look at.
Previous slide.
Could you delineate what the colors
Previous.
represent? Because I'm a 14 font guy living in an 8 font world, so.
So the blue,
colors-
Oh, okay.
the blue area of the graph reflects the number of inbound calls that we received for that month. The orange reflects the number of emails we responded to, and the gray represents the number of work orders created out of customer service for the field. So just to provide an update as we normally do for customer portal general stats, we have a total of 8,401 members with portal accounts. And as we were kind of discussing prior to the start of this meeting, that does not necessarily reflect the number of active accounts that have, you know, member portal accounts. It simply reflects how many folks have created an account to access, you know, their particular billing account or service address here at CCWD.
Because we're still saying we have about 13,500.
Right, active accounts, correct. So in this case, what this may reflect are multiple accounts, portal accounts that are related to possibly one service location. There, you know,
Oh,
there may
okay.
be a certain situation where you have, you know, spouses and each one of them has a portal account tied to a specific account, a utility billing account. You may have a situation where a landlord has a portal account tied to their account here with us, but then they've also authorized the tenant to have an account. So this could be reflective of multiple customer portal members, but does not reflect how many, you know, active accounts we have with membership on the portal.
And total administrators, what is?
So internal administrators, we have 4 administrators here in-house that help run the back end of the portal.
Oh,
So internal staff that
Oh.
manage the portal.
oh, okay.
Kelly, let me ask you a question. Bertha mentioned 13,500 water customers. I mean, there's no way that you could ever anticipate having 13,500 members on your portal members, because not everybody has access to the internet.
Correct.
So
Really, you know, even just in my time here and then obviously at past agencies, there's usually a metric that's established for what you're trying to achieve as far as customer engagement on any kind of portal platform is concerned. So you take a look at, you know, your outreach efforts and what you're trying to achieve as far as accessibility and membership engagement on the portal. And you look to engage certain demographics based on, you know, your customer base and get them to enroll. And it's of course not going to be 100%. But I'm happy to report that this year alone, we've had 761 new members enroll on the portal, which I think is fantastic. And we are in customer service working very closely with operations staff to kind of finalize data validation and quality control in the final stages for the smart meter element of the customer portal, which would include all of the AMI data and any of those customer established alerts or thresholds that would allow our customers to have a lot more engagement and control over their accounts as far as consumption is concerned, in addition to, monetarily how much they are aiming to spend if they're on a budget. So we have beta testing occurring with some of our staff internally who are also customers. And we are working on making sure that all of the data and thresholds for engagement are set on the back end prior to rollout. So some of the projects and programs that customer service staff are working on, obviously the Mueller AMI or Automated Metering Infrastructure project is nearing completion. Staff has been working together to make sure that our network quality and our data reliability is up to snuff, and basically that we're effectively training staff to maximize the value of the system. So that's happening here, and that's part of, our quality control element prior to launching the smart portal part of our customer portal. Staff has also been in continuous talks with Tyler, which is our utility billing or CIS system. And we are collaborating with them to ensure that our system is set up for optimal use and efficiency. We've spoken on both of these projects for several months now, and obviously they are ongoing efforts as AMI and our Encode system are what we're operating in. So we're constantly trying to make sure that we have clean AMI data, that we're billing efficiently and accurately, and then also that our system is, as far as the customer side, is doing what we need it to do and moving us forward in some of the processes and procedures that we have to accomplish in customer service. We are also moving forward with our past due reminders and reminder fees. So this is under our rules and regulations, part of our delinquency process that has been was under moratorium during COVID and was not reinstated once the moratorium had been lifted. However, it will be reinstated, at least part of that delinquency process, in January of 2024. Basically, what that will entail is reminder notifications being sent out to account holders that are showing a past due balance, and then a reminder fee that's incurred at that point for having to go through that reminder process and send out those notices. So just, reporting to Finance Committee yesterday, this was something that we brought up, and reminded them of as far as our timeline of reinstatement, and really wanted to make sure that we had ample time to perform enough outreach into the community for our customers using various, medias to ensure that everybody is aware that that will be reinstated at the beginning of next year. Just an update from some of the last information that we shared, that we have broadened, or my position has broadened oversight into IT. So not only do I oversee customer service, but also IT staff. So we look to have that be, very collaborative and, be able to join together both administrative services and IT efforts district-wide as we go forward.
So does that mean Dylan belongs to, reports to you?
Correct.
Oh, and?
And the IT administrator.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I thought we all did.
What's that?
I thought we all reported to you.
Oh, gosh, no.
I've come to expect that.
That's quite a load for you.
It's actually, I think it makes sense for as much interaction as we have, between admin services and IT. But it allows us to kind of work together and bring in operations and, all the other admin staff to make sure that needs are being met, and kind of gives IT a home, if you will,
Oh.
to make sure that, we're meeting expectations there, and that we're budgeting appropriately for what their needs are. And, they're a small group. So I think it helps to have just some additional oversight and making sure that we can move forward appropriately there and give them some backup.
But then that doesn't restrict them to strictly customer service. I mean, there's still.
Oh, no, not at all. They are, IT is a department that supports the entire district and all staff. Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify on that, that's not a new change. That was one of the things we did when we created that business services manager position. And it, I think, stabilized kind of where IT is in the organization and how to best make sure it is integrated to all departments, not just admin services. So I think it's working out well. Credit to Kelly on that.
Potential spam.
And I would be remiss if I didn't touch on our customer assistance programs today. Again, these are so critical to, some of our customer engagement efforts. And even though they absolutely have an effect within the financial realm of operations here, both of these programs are actually facilitated through customer service staff. So it does take time and effort from our staff to facilitate these, and obviously provide a benefit to our customers. So just wanted to provide a brief update on our customer assistance program, or CAP program, and then also the low income housing water assistance program, or LIWAP, which is facilitated by ADCA here in our county. So obviously, just a quick background on our internal customer assistance program. It provides a $20 per billing cycle for water credit on the bill for those who qualify, and $30 billing credit for wastewater for those who qualify. This is strictly funded through non-ratepayer revenues, and there are certain requirements that our customers need to meet in order to join the program. However, I'd like to report that we currently have 68 open spots for water.
That was interesting because,
Mhm.
Normally it's,
It's normally full.
right.
Annually, around the April-May timeframe is when we initiate our annual re-enrollment requirements for that program, where we send notification out to those who are enrolled and ask them to essentially confirm that they still meet the requirements of the program so that it can continue into the next fiscal year. And so as a result of that process, it's been determined that we have currently 68 open spots for water and 82 open spots for wastewater. So that particular program has availability. And so part of what we've been discussing is putting together some sort of, communication or outreach campaign to, garner some interest in filling those
Oh,
spots.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And then as far as LIWAP is concerned, obviously this is a program that is federally funded, but it is a state program facilitated by ADCA. So they are the ones that go through the application process and work very closely with us to ensure that applicants are qualified based on their arrearage or status of their account. There's also income qualifications that need to be met, and again, that goes through ADCA. But the program itself in Calaveras County, well, actually, statewide, has been extended through March of 2024, or as long as there is funding that exists for each county. So the program has actually provided those of us here that work with ADCA and the LIWAP folks a dashboard, and the dashboard allows for us to track how much funding is still available for Calaveras County. So we have about $14,500 worth of funding still available. So again, part of the outreach effort is going to be for customers to reach out to ADCA and see if this is something that they qualify for. We've had 53 of our customer accounts that have been assisted to the tune of about $45,950 worth of assistance. So it's been what I consider to be a pretty beneficial program to a lot of our customers here, and I'm glad it's been extended and there's still funding. And that's it for today. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
What is the condition now about the being able to take advantage of the full capabilities of the radio read meters? The customers being able to see their daily consumption and all that. Is it coming or still far out or what?
Right. So actually this week I have a meeting with Tyler Technologies, who is the company that oversees and hosts our portal. And we're going to be having talks with them to, again, continue the conversation about personalizing the portal as much as possible so that when our customers get on there, the data that they're receiving or, the estimates that they're receiving are applicable to a 2-month billing cycle. A lot of these portals out of the box will accommodate a monthly billing cycle estimate. And so there is some back-end programming or development that needs to happen, on their side to be able to accommodate that. It takes a little bit of time. But also we do want to make sure that the data itself that's coming in from our AMI system and our network is going to be populated on the portal as frequently as per the agreement. So I believe it's either a 2 or 4 hour kind of drop that happens with data on the portal. And that comes directly from our AMI system. They have an API or an agreement, communication agreement, where that data gets transferred automatically. And so again, this kind of couples with operations and customer service effort to not only make sure that that data is exactly where we want it to be to launch the portal, and customers will be able to, see that and tie it into their billing, but also, making sure that we, again, for operational purposes internally, are dialed in when the network is down, making sure if a communication device or a repeater goes down, what the response is and what our relationship with our network analyst is as far as response goes. What effect is that going to have on the customer if they get onto the portal and they see that there's a period of time where there's no consumption, educating the customer that if a communication device goes down and it gets, rebooted, that any gap in data should be populated because the nodes on the meters themselves have a battery backup, so there's things like that we're getting dialed in as far as, managing alerts, managing the network, and ensuring that if, a meter needs to be changed out, that we're following that process accordingly, getting the new meter up on the network in a timely manner, those types of things. So it's not only data efficiency, but also operational efficiencies.
Will we still be working closely with Mueller, or are they soon to be out of the picture?
No, we absolutely now have a marriage with Mueller as far as the meters are concerned. So where it won't be at a project level, it will be at a network management level. So we will still have something that's referred to as a NOC analyst or a network communication analyst, and we will be in contact with that designated Mueller representative. We will also have Mueller engineers, technical engineers that will be working with us and responsive to us in regards to the AMI portal itself. So that's something that we have on the back end that we're able to, gather data and information from raw data from the meters in the field.
Okay, well, I'm certainly looking forward to a time, hopefully it won't be too much farther out in the future that this system is working like it was represented to us that it would work.
Right.
I have a couple of other kind of out of the box questions. I know that PG&E in particular responds to the highs and lows and billings that occur or can occur throughout the year. And I think that some customers can go to them and get them on the phone and say, can I have a level billing rate that will take care of the highs and lows? Look at the last 12 months or last 24 months and see where it has gone up. And if the family's on a fixed income, it's very beneficial to them to know what the PG&E is going to be expecting of them in July. And it may be twice what it was in November. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Will our system ever be sophisticated enough that we could offer that as a tool for our customers?
So I think you're referring to something which is typically called like peak billing, or you use, certain times of the year to gauge, a uniform billing rate throughout the year, and then you have a true up at the end.
Yeah.
And while, that absolutely is something that's utilized by a lot of utilities, I think there's a couple things that come into play with that, and that absolutely has to do with the system capabilities and, whatever billing or CIS system you're using, and whether or not you can build something like that into it. It's not to say it can't be done, but that takes some building and putting into place, and then also obviously that being run by staff and managed by staff and getting that implemented. So it's a pretty multifaceted type enterprise that you would have there. Not to say that it can't be done, but it would definitely take some input and some time to get that implemented if it was an option.
So it was not considered part of the plan.
Well, no, you're able to get quite a bit of data off of the AMI system, and you can use it for those things. It's not to say that it can't be used for that. And even, changing the frequency of your billings, that's also been a conversation. Do you move from bi-monthly billing to monthly billing? These are all, major undertakings that absolutely have an effect on not only staff time, but also your cash flow, and your delinquency processes and all of those things. So it's, you make a decision to do one thing, you just have to look across the board and see what it has an effect on. And ultimately, if that is more efficient or cost effective for the district to do. As far as AMI data is concerned, I think a lot of agencies are moving that way because of water resources and water conservation reporting requirements for the state of California specifically. And so you're needing to be able to mine quite a bit more data now than you ever did before as far as your water use is concerned. And so I think that's one of the main drivers behind the AMI system, but you can use that data for many different things, including, billing and options for your customers.
Well, you mentioned a moment ago that you're going to have a conversation soon with the representative from Tyler to kind of get your heads together.
Right.
Ask them, do you have any other customers that are doing this? I mean, I learned a long time ago that it's kind of silly to reinvent the wheel. So let's not try to write our own code if somebody's already doing it. But the other thing that I wanted to just ask if it's possible that we could do, like, I sort of didn't force AT&T to do this, but my wife and I were trying to reduce cost of operations in our household, and so we both have AT&T phones, And so we went over to the AT&T office in Sonora and sat down with them, and they looked over our plan, and they said, as a result of my inquiry, is there anything we can do to lower these costs? And then they looked and it says, no, you're done about as low as you can get. And so I said, well, how about just try this on for size? If we paid our bill in advance, instead of we get an automatic withdrawal from our checking account for every monthly bill, but instead of paying it after the fact, let's pay it proactively. And this person looked at me and she says, well, if you're willing to do that, we can give you like 50% discount.
Yeah, and I think that's a wonderful thing for those agencies to be able to do that. I think a lot of our restrictions for flexibility fall under Prop 218 in California, and we unfortunately don't have the same capabilities as other states and private entities to be able to offer things like that. We're a little handcuffed
Well,
as far as
I'm not suggesting that we can give 50% discount, but could we eliminate the service charge if somebody was willing to pay in advance? I mean, it seems like it would take a hell of a lot of burden off your staff to, and even on Tyler to put out the bills and stuff. I mean, if it was paid in advance, I don't know how many people would be willing to pay it in advance if they could forego the service charge. And we heard here from half a dozen people at 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday night that your billing system is painful. So it costs too much money to pay the bill.
Okay.
So I'd like to explore any and all
Because,
possibilities that we could fix that.
Back of that service charge, it was $3, and one of my constituents said it went up to $5.
No, it depends on how they pay. If they use a credit card, it is a percentage for the credit card. If they use a checking account, it's a $2 flat fee, convenience fee.
Mm-hmm.
So, and these, obviously were set many months ago when we had those conversations with Tyler and had those conversations with the board. Yeah. So, but as anything that we do here, it should be always evaluated and looked at for, best practices. So that's something that Admin Services is actively looking into and something that will be reported on by our Admin Services Director at the next finance committee.
Okay, so sounds like you've been busy, Kelly. Good for you.
Been busy, yes.
Okay, I can ask for any public comment. Oh,
I too would like a more like a Gregorian calendar date certain that this AMI project will be live and in full color and fully operational. I know you're working with Tyler, but I would think that there is a no pass go, no collect, no more fees and get this thing done kind of clause somewhere. I don't know what your agreement is with Tyler, but if you were having some functionality, and I'm one of these data geeks that is waiting with bated breath to be able to use all the functions. I don't have a date certain yet, and so I would push harder on that. And I'm concerned about the reinstatement of delinquency when the new rates are going to go in 10/16. And just the perception. I know you have to do it, but it's just it's like we're working with the fire district on the tax measure, and the rate increase came at the absolutely worst time for them. But it is what it is. But now, the rates are going up, and and you're going to reinstate it might not go over real well. Something to consider. And on your question about fees. I'm a road manager, and I issue invoices and collect annual dues. And somebody asked me, why don't you take a credit card? We want to use Venmo. I said, I'll look into it. Well, if I use the credit card and they either swipe, tap, or dip, it's 2.5% of the amount. If I have to key it in, it's 3.5% of the amount. If it's an online invoice, it's 2.99% of the amount. And if it's a bank ACH transfer, it's 1% of the amount. And 1% of $375 is more than the stamp and the envelope. So I said, we're USPS. Something to think about as well is, you know, it's not cheap. These electronic guys, they like their money.
Right.
They like a big amount, but I would advise something about that delinquency. It's not gonna go over real well, I don't think. Thank you.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, we've actually just to note, we've prolonged this quite a
Right.
bit.
Yeah. we've been-
It's been discussed for the past year.
Uh-huh.
And we've prolonged it, taking into consideration also going through this Prop 218 and rate study, process as well. So,
Because we suspended it with our COVID, right?
correct.
Yeah.
It's been suspended for over 3 years.
Well, let's see how the recall goes.
Procedural questions. Members of the community have occasionally raised the question of when these meetings are scheduled. And so in order to encourage greater community participation, the idea has been floated that these meetings occasionally occur in the evening. Maybe
Right.
not every time, but maybe once a quarter or something.
That's
We
weird.
could do that. Secondly, your presentation is great. There's a lot there. Do you post those presentations that you just shared on the website? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Anything? No. Okay. So, Michael?
Let me respond to, not a response, but just an observation, Mike, about these proposed night meetings. I once had the privilege of serving on the Board of Supervisors, and we tried night meetings, and the hue and cry was, you're having these meetings during the day, we can't come. We tried to have night meetings and nobody came. So, I mean, I think it's a good idea if people come, but how do you do an EKG on that and figure out the staff overtime and stuff is just can't be sustained, it can't be justified if there's 2 or 3 people. Mhm.
It's a question for your external affairs manager that, because you would have to do some outreach to notify people.
Mhm.
And so, hey, posting it on the website's probably not sufficient. And, I think it probably ties back to your quarterly newsletter idea that it, you list dates and times of all the meetings there. Not just the ones up, the one upcoming, but the entire calendar, put that in your quarterly newsletter, just as an idea, but I think that, to Francisco's point earlier about using social media to notify people as well. I don't know how many people go out and buy newspapers anymore, but perhaps that's an avenue as well, but it would be some sort of a combination of outreach efforts to notify people. And hey, we understand that it's not always convenient for you folks to meet in the evening. You have families and lives as well. So we understand that as well, but.
because we had briefly thought of that and suggested maybe a quarterly evening meeting might work.
Yeah, I anything that can kind of drive a little more participation, I think would be helpful, because I'm sure people have issues and concerns.
Oh,
that,
yes.
that I probably haven't even thought of, myself. So.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. It's just food for thought.
But we'll be discussing all of that.
Um,
Okay,
Francisco, you mentioned the cell phone. People have this ability to have Nextdoor and whatnot on their cell phone. I've heard discussion around here, and Kelly, maybe you could respond to this, but isn't it difficult for the district to get on the Nextdoor site because we're not an individual who lives in the neighborhood?
Yeah, we actually have it.
We have, you've got on, okay.
We've been using it throughout this process. We get a lot of activity on there.
You're not in Copperopolis.
Yes. It's actually the entire county. We weren't able to just go by division. So we blast out to the entire county.
Yeah.
It makes interesting reading, trust me, even when it's a benign announcement, there's a meeting, and you get a sense for where the pulse is. But there's even more data mining you could do by following some of the Facebook pages. You know, it used to be that all of this happened in the background with gossip, neighbors, and this and that and the other. It's now in the public sphere. And it just depends on how much time and resource you want to dedicate and how much weight you want to give to each effort, because there's some efforts that don't deserve any bandwidth because they're just way, way out there. But there is a use and utility for the Nextdoor application, and they are available on Android and iPhone. So
All right.
cellular is internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find myself just getting down a rabbit hole every time I start trying to respond to some of these things. And anyway, it's very time consuming.
yes. You are appreciated.
Okay, did Michael have any follow-up?
Michael?
No, just thank you to Kelly. That was a fantastic report. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go on to director comments.
Just at the risk of being overly redundant, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in today. It's been very pleasant. I know you've been, I think this first time Francisco came here, he wasn't as friendly as he is now. So it's very gratifying to see that somebody can peel back the onion and see that we're trying our best and be willing to try to help us do it. Thank you. My personal thank you. Appreciate it very much. And future agenda items, I don't want to have another meeting unless we have a tour in the meantime. So let's work on that. I'd like to have a report on the tour or tours. Kelly, they should see our largest plant and our smallest plant. Would that be advisable?
But they're
They're long
They're
ways
like-
apart. Mhm. And lunch at Spicer. Okay, that's all I have, Bertha.
okay. One of the things that I brought in, and I'm sure that a lot of people have seen this, is out of the AARP bulletin for July and August, the surging cost of water. So I think, this is going right to the,
Hmm.
when it goes to AARP, it's big.
Hmm.
Let me see. I really pretty calm up the hill. Not too much going on. Other than that, we'll just have our next meeting when?
October 24th.
We can go on Labor Day in New Zealand, October, oh, that's a Monday. You want to go Tuesday,
Tuesday, the 24th, yeah.
24th? 24th of October. And any other comments, suggestions?
Nobody online has anything? Okay.
Nothing online? Okay, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Bertha.
2:45.